making any movement, but the reality is we are expensing. It's just that we don't expense fund balance itself. That's out there for everyone to understand what we have, and we have it laid out in our CIP. It's not anticipated, but it is there for you to see future projects. So I just want to point that out when you look at those. But overall, city revenue and expenses, revenue came in at 62.31% and expenses was 57.23%.
And do you anticipate the end of the year being under 100% as well?
That
Or are we going to get to?
That is the end of
Oh,
the
that
year.
is the
This
end
is
of the
the end
year.
of the year.
I'm
And so- and
sorry, you're
that's-
right. It's the court. Sorry.
Yeah, and again, in the operational, we don't have as large of fund balances, so your revenues and expenses that you see are actually what they are. But when it gets to the capital portion, which is a substantial part of our budget, you're going to see those percentages much lower because fund balance is not expensed.
I don't have any questions.
Not any smart ones anyway, so.
Okay.
we're good.
All right.
All right, thank you.
And to clarify, just consent for those? You're just approving the financials?
We
Mhm.
just
We're just approving that.
Have 'em.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is Lori Hopkins with resolution for destruction of city records.
Yeah, this is our annual cleanup of records, basically. So compared to the resolution that we just passed in 2021, so new items, and all the departments went through, looked at their records, compared. Legal department approved the resolution, so we're good to go.
Okay.
And Shred Day is scheduled for April 7th if you approve it.
All right, so this one is a little different than the one passed last year, is that right? Because the one passed last year had a lot more categories that we
We
had to
had-
decide
yeah.
on. Is that,
Well, we have two resolutions that passed in 21, one that classified and said where the records are, and then the other one gave it a retention period.
okay.
So that was just saying this record is kept for this long, this record is kept for this long.
Okay.
This resolution is actually saying, yes, the council thinks that these records should be destroyed through this year.
Oh,
Like
okay.
our business licenses, I keep 5 years worth. So we'll just destroy 2017 back.
Okay, I thought we were revisiting that
No.
whole thing again,
No,
but
no.
this is just for
This is
the,
just the
destruction.
destruction of the records.
okay, I understand better now. Thank you. And that goes on consent agenda, is that right?
Consent, yes.
Yep.
Good job. I don't worry about our records with you in charge.
Thank you.
Next up is 2023 Street Surface Treatment Project with Steve Schulte.
Clicker.
Should be over there, Steve.
Hi there, thanks for having me. So to start off with, this will kind of give a bit of a recap of kind of where we got to this point. The state of Idaho allocated a portion of state surplus funds to local transportation agencies with the House Bill 772, resulting in a disbursement of $484,850 to the city of Moscow on July 25th, 2022 for use on the transportation system. The HB 772 funds are currently in the capital budget, and with council approval, will be specifically allocated to this project during the open budget process. Staff proposes to use these funds for an asphalt rubberized chip seal application of roughly 49,500 square yards of roadway. So I'll kind of describe what that really means, where the rubber hits the road.
Oh, man.
Just saving that one for us.
I didn't mean to.
Only once a year we can use that joke.
It'll be back. So some history, I guess, on the city's pavement management program. 14 years ago, we decided to take on more of a preventative maintenance approach to asphalt maintenance. So maybe you've heard this story once or twice before over the years, but we'll give you the short version. So as you can see on this map, this just kind of gives you an idea of some of our previous projects. Back in 2011 was our first slurry seal. We were the first in the region to bring a slurry seal. I guess, yeah, first one in the greater inland Northwest to bring a slurry seal to this region because we are, as we know, pretty geographically isolated. It's a long ways from Moscow to most places. And some of these more new to us maintenance techniques were difficult to get to our area. So we rallied some of our neighboring cities and got enough quantity to bring a company out to work with us. So compared to our previous maintenance, Moscow's previous maintenance program, which was just to overlay a street. If it's broken, put some more asphalt on it. That's going to break, put some more asphalt on it. As you can imagine, that wasn't the most cost-effective method. So yeah, 14 years ago, which coincided when this guy showed up, we took on the different approach. So the analogy that he always uses is the oil change in your car. You buy a car, you got to change oil, right? If you buy a car and never change the oil, it's going to die. Not going to take that long.
Wait, what?
Right.
Oh, no.
Right. If it takes oil, that is. But that's what we're doing here with street maintenance. Is we're doing those preventative maintenance techniques. Crack filling, slurry seals, chip seals, that are much cheaper, but elongating the lifespan of the roadway to maximize the life of the roadway, but to maximize the funding that we have. Is, I guess, one of the biggest parts, the biggest challenges we face with street maintenance. And I'll have maybe Tyler lean on him a bit for this one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as you guys are all, I think, well aware, streets is more difficult to fund because it's not like our enterprise funds where we can charge what it costs to actually maintain the streets. We're reliant on things like the fuel tax, which has never been pegged to inflation. And so as construction costs have even outstripped inflation, which has been significant, the fuel tax just does not keep up. As vehicles become more efficient and electric vehicles hit the road, it actually has an erosive impact on our ability to fund streets. And so the council has been asked over the years and been very responsive to looking for ways to augment our funding for streets. For a long time, we were getting about $200,000 annually was kind of the rule of thumb for any sort of treatment process. And we've been very successful in getting that number up. And the council has really worked hard to find funding for street maintenance, but it continues to be a struggle. And so we really have to try to be as creative as possible with those funds and make sure that sometimes what that means is doing projects like this that prolong the life of a road versus rebuilding, for the kind of cost that we're talking about, we could maybe rebuild one block of pavement. And so while there are roads that are certainly in worse condition than the roads that we propose to treat, it's really important that we treat these roads so that they aren't just added to a perpetually longer list of roads that need to be rebuilt. And so the preventative maintenance really is pretty important as we work through this process.
So yeah, for the maintenance toolbox, we've got a handful of different techniques. Slurry seal is one that you can see on the map that we've done numerous times. That's the kind of lighter approach. It goes on roads that are in relatively decent shape, helps give it a new wearing surface, rejuvenates the oils, keeps the road going. Crack filling is another one that we often do. And then once we got to that point, besides doing more expensive maintenance techniques like milling off some of the roadway and replacing it, we had this big gap where roads were just essentially there to die. There was nothing to be done until they were replaced. So that's where the asphalt rubberized chip seal came into play and gave us another pretty large tool in that toolbox.
It really gave us it was a very nice tool because it gave us the ability to reach for some roads that otherwise we really couldn't have done anything with. And it allows us to put a new surface on those roads that improves the aesthetic, improves the drivability, but more importantly, just prolongs the life of those roads. And we've been pretty successful. Roads that otherwise would have been really in bad shape within a few years, but we really wouldn't have realistically had the funding to do much about it. It gives us a tool to improve those streets and get some significant life back out of them.
Yeah, this here shows an example of some alligator crackings, as well as some utility patches. As we know, those tend to degrade our asphalts a little quicker. After the asphalt rubberized chip, it seals the road up. And I guess short of any other description, it's like a rubber blanket for the road. It really does seal the water out of the road surface. Water is what helps well, hurts our roads. Once the water gets underneath, they get soft, the road falls apart. So the asphalt rubberized chip gives us that helps seal up and keep the water from getting underneath the road. Now, where this is different from like what the county does with a chip seal, they apply an oil emulsion and they put rock on it. It gets really hard. Those cracks reflect back up through relatively quickly, and you have about the same surface in a relative, similar short amount of time. It looks about the same as what it did before you started. With the asphalt rubberized chip, it elongates the lifespan of the chip where the cracks don't reflect back up. We have roads out there now that are 8 years old that are still watertight. They'll still hold a puddle. I'm quite amazed with how well it's worked on some of our candidates. It doesn't work everywhere. That's where we had to kind of test run it on some of the roads, but we've been pretty pleased with how it's acted on when applied to the appropriate roads.
If a road is in really bad shape, then this is not an option,
Right.
right?
There's
Once it really is falling apart.
Yeah, there's some really specific candidates that are good options for any of these treatments that we have. And so it really is taking a look at the entire toolbox. If a road's in really bad shape, then yeah, there's not a lot you can do. This is really for those roads that are beyond just a slurry seal or some light treatment. But we do rely on the roads not having much structural damage underneath. So if there's a lot of soft spots, that's problematic. For really the ideal treatment for these roads are roads that have a lot of top-down fatigue, but not bottom-up fatigue, so that the pavements are, the road base itself is holding together really well, but the pavement surface is just tired. That's a really good treatment for this because we're able to keep that moisture out of that base with this. The process, it's also something that we like because of the environmental impacts of the process. They actually use ground up car tires. And so this process has become one of the largest recyclers of car tires. And so that's what adds the rubberized aspect to the emulsion is actually ground up. They make pellets out of ground up car tires and melt that in with the emulsion, and that lends it the plasticity that it needs to continue to operate that way over time.
Right. The idea is kind of you're turning the road into the rubberies, of the car tire in a 12-foot wide lane, 1 lane mile long. You have 600 tires roughly is what the spec. It's a lot of car tires.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what are they doing?
Landfill.
Yeah, it's a great use, great recycler. Let's see. So with that, these are the candidates that we have identified for the 2023 project. If approved, these are the roads that we'd like to see get an AR chip. They are good candidates. They have structure. There's just, like Tyler said, some top-down fatigue, aged asphalt that was installed 30, 40 years ago and otherwise doesn't have much of a hope. But this, as we've seen, has been great at elongating the life of those roadways. So with that, the staff recommend approval of the use of the HB 772 funds for an asphalt rubberized chip seal project in the 2023 construction season.
So just to clarify, we're bringing this to you now because these funds have been received by the city, but they will be allocated through the open budget process. And so what we want, we currently have a bid out that we expect to get bids back in. We have a bid closing that's upcoming for this. And so we'll be bringing the actual project back to you, but we wanted to come to you with this to discuss the funding before we come back with the project, just to make sure that the council is comfortable with that.
I'm always happy for our state tax dollars to come back to us.
And I'm always happy when we can put our state tax dollars towards our streets. That makes me very happy. So I'm good with this, hands down.
Yeah, I have no questions, and I think it's good.
Perfect.
Regular agenda consent, or would you like, this can go on consent if you'd
Consent would
like.
be fine.
Yeah, I think consent. I'm okay with consent.
Okay.
Thank
Looking
you.
at the peanut gallery, see if anybody wants it on the regular agenda.
It doesn't make sense not to put it on the agenda, because in fact, the goal was is to bring it here so people could hear it, and then.
Yeah, there's 4 of us.
And we'll be
All right.
back with the project itself
Yeah.
here in the coming weeks.
Thanks. Thank you. All right. Any report from you, Tyler?
None.
All right. Anything else?
Nope, I say we adjourn.
I agree with that.
All right.
Nothing.
Well, we can adjourn then. Thank you.
Thanks.
That was 18 minutes. You
So
might
yeah,
beat
I got a
my
question for you,
record.
and it's a little off.
About the efficient
topic, but
meeting.
kind of about streets.
Yeah, no reason